what's going on, y'all. So people wanted me to do this article. I am going to do it. Obviously, I know the truth on this along with a lot of other people, but I think the way Japan likes to see things, it's nice to see somebody that's in a professional position come out and give their point of view. To me, when it comes to this type of situation, I never thought it really was a problem until things were lied about and inflated. Uh, Even Lockley himself discussed some things about the sumo wrestler aspect, and if you were able to become a sumo wrestler and succeed in that, you could get a formation as a samurai, but that would be considered the samurai that a Western society thinks. There's different aspects of what a real samurai is compared to formations of samurai in Japanese culture throughout the history. And Western society takes samurai as a fixed point of view rather than what it actually should be. But this historian right here, Yuichi Goza, recently came out and did a statement on the whole situation because he wanted to kind of like give people a more professional standpoint, and he's actually a real historian compared to Yu Hirayama. So this is the guy right here. That's why I wanted to show y'all that, and I translated this. He says Yasuke's issue. He was in a position similar to that of an entertainer, and Japanese people are actually dissatisfied. Interview with historian Goza. What he means by that is the lies, the revisionism of history, this all this inflated stuff, saying he's a legendary samurai. We all know he wasn't that. You can't do that in 12 to 15 months. It's freaking impossible. You have to literally grow up and train for that your whole life and deal with life and death so much and defeat some of the strongest people and then be respected. If you were able to do that, all of Japan would have that recorded. This is what this is about, the inflation of making him this heroic figure that he's not. And like I said, it's disrespectful to the dead and it's disrespectful to Japanese culture. But let's go down here and continue a bit. French game company Ubisoft is releasing a game set in Japan's Warring States period called Assassin's Creed Shadows in November. The game's protagonist is a black man named Yasuke. I'd say an East African, which has sparked criticisms on social media and elsewhere, with people calling it cultural appropriation, with basically the DEI, blackwash and woke stuff, leading to an online petition calling for the game's release to be halted. Yasuke is a real person who served Oda Nobunaga, but there are concerns that a false image of him could be inflated overseas and that content that is not historical fact could be spread. This is the problem. Obi explains that this is a work of fiction inspired by real historical events and people. We spoke to historian Yuichi Goza, author of books such as The Onin War, about the issue, not a legendary samurai. Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, that's like me saying, somebody that came over to China, um, and was a colored person, or could have been a Caucasian person, and that he was there with one of the most notorious or heroic figures, and he got brought over by the Jesuits, and he became a legendary kung fu master in 12 to 15 months. I just want y'all to think about that concept. You see what I'm saying? Or somebody came in Japan and became a legendary karate figure. If you're going to be a legend in martial arts, do you know how long that takes? Even if you were there for 2 years, how? How can you become a legendary kung fu master, a legendary Wing Chun master like Bruce Lee, you know what I mean, or Ip Man, in 12 to 15 months? It's absolutely insane. You know what I mean? That's called like gassing up to the extent to where like you're making people believe this, and what blows my mind is how people lack the intelligence to not even understand that. Like, how can I become a kung fu master in 12 to 15 months and beat up all those people that have been doing that? That's their whole entire like bloodline and legion and their pride. You know what I mean? Come on, man. Like, let's wake up here. See, this is about facing reality and getting with the facts here. Like, it's just a bunch of nonsense. So after that is said, whoever argues with that, yeah, something's wrong with your brain. So what kind of person was Isuke? There was debate on social media about whether he was a samurai or not. There are few historical documents remaining, and I went over this saying about the documents, and that there was one that the Jesuits magnified, and then there was one in Japan that said that he was given the formation uh, of a samurai, but or a warrior, but he was not an actual legit samurai that would fight on the battlefield for life and death. Like, that's not gonna happen. You know what I mean? And that they magnified that. Thomas Lockley actually stated that. though he didn't lie about that. One of the surviving copies of Nobunaga's autobiography, Nobunaga Koki, a 15-volume edition held by Sonkeikaku Bunko, includes a passage saying that Nobunaga gave Yusuke a sword in the house, indicating that he treated him as a samurai. There's nothing wrong with that. However, the dozens of copies of Nobunaga Kuki, this only appears in a surviving copy, so we cannot deny the possibility that it was added at a later time when it was copied. Yeah, exactly, added in. Also, even if they were samurai, sometimes it was formally. That's what I mean. It's like a formation where you just line up, but you're never going to go on the battlefield and fight. Like you would say, oh, I trust this person with my life. You know what I mean? Like, no, he's not qualified. For example, in the Edo period, feudal lords who loved sumo and had sumo wrestlers in their employ, this is what I mean. Formerly, they were employed as vassals and samurai and were allowed to carry swords, but even if the war broke out, it was of course not expected that these wrestlers would fight on a battlefield. No, it was a formation. You see? That's what Lockley was talking about. So he took that and then he like fantasized some story off of it. And this was based off of that one little document. Yasuke in Shadows appears wearing magnificent armor. What kind of position do you think he actually held? The Japanese around Nobunaga were very surprised by Yasuke's black skin and seemed to have been intrigued by it. It was a novelty, and the fact that Nobunaga kept him by his side was, to put it bluntly, almost like a spectacle. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Because Japan is like, well, what is that? You know what I mean? It's kind of like an alien to them in a sense of like we're not used to that. So he seems cool. Let me go ahead and he has the physique, and I'm gonna take him through some sumo wrestling, and I'm gonna treat him with some respect. That's not racist. And remember, Nobunaga was known to be a little bit notorious. But what I find interesting is the lack of information of how Nobunaga really got him. Because remember what I was telling y'all, and Japan, I want y'all to listen about this. The Jesuits of Rome brought him there. How did Nobunaga get him to do that? The Jesuits of Rome weren't just going to hand him over. This needs to be thought about from an academic level. They had to make some sort of deal, or there was some sort of like exchange going on there, and then he had to return to him eventually. You're not going to just say, here, go over to him. And Nobunaga was not going to just go to the Jesuits of Rome, who actually had him enslaved, and just say, give me him, I want him. You know what I mean? It doesn't work like that. And I think we all know that. So I think that that's something that's never really kind of highlighted or focused on. So that's why I feel like that's like a big hole that's missing in a lot of these statements that it needs to be deducted and thought about. That the Jesuits still were in control of a lot of things, but they obviously allowed that, obviously, or otherwise it wouldn't have happened. So it's not like you would bring somebody to Japan. No, they had a reason to do that. They had a reason to bring him and all those other people. I just think that that should probably be thought about. But let's continue here. By having a Black Yusei close to him, he would attract attention, and in a way, it was showing off Nobunaga's power, like a vanity display or a retainer. So I think the most important purpose was to show him off to everyone. The Jesuit historical documents say that Yasuke was a strong and could perform in few tricks. That's what I was saying. These are Jesuit documents. I think in reality, he was Nobunaga's bodyguard and entertainer as a spectacle. That's what I mean. He just wanted him to feel cool about being around him, and he kind of liked that idea. I don't see what's wrong with that. That's better than being bound to the Jesuits. I would take that too. He was not like the samurai warrior that Westerners imagine, cutting down his enemies one after another. Of course not. So I feel uncomfortable with him being treated as a legendary samurai. No. Even if he fought, I don't think he led his subordinates, but rather worked as a soldier. Yeah, like a foot soldier. That would make sense. You know what I mean? Because you're at the beginning. Just like if you first walked into the army, you're gonna be at that basic level. You know what I mean? You have been there for 7, 8, 9, 10 years, stuff like that. So there's no problem with that. Consideration is needed if the subject is historical. And remember, we're trying to get to the truth here. That's what this is about. I don't care about people's feelings, getting stuck on ideologies, getting into the DEI. Like if you're just doing all that, you're being kind of slow. Something's wrong with you. What do you think about the controversy surrounding shadows? This is a bit outside the scope of my expertise in history, respect, but samurai are generally thought of around the world as an element of Japanese culture. So I can understand why many people think that if the film was to respect samurai culture, then the main character should have been a Japanese samurai. Absolutely. This is not up for debate. This is pretty damn obvious. So the fact that they didn't do that is racist. If you want to talk about what racism is, that's racist against the Japanese male and the Japanese pride and the masculine nature of the Japanese culture. It's very disrespectful and it's very racist. In particular, since the film uses a real person, it would have been more natural to make the main character a famous swordsman or samurai such as Miyamoto Musashi. This guy was awesome. I don't know if y'all know about him. Let's go to him real quick. He's right here. I read a lot of his quotes too. So like you could do something like this just to help you guys out. Or QUOT, my bad. And then you go to something like this. Accept everything just the way it is. Do not seek pleasure for its own sake. Do not under any circumstances depend on a partial feeling. Think lightly of yourself and deeply of the world. Be detached from desire your whole life long. Do not regret what you have done. Never be jealous. Never let yourself be saddened by a separation. Resentment and complaint are appropriate neither for oneself nor others. Do not let yourself be guided by the feeling of lust or love. And this was the way of the samurai. So he lived a very serious lifestyle. Like I said, I read all his stuff. I even got a lot of stuff on him. Y'all be surprised. Said I do a lot of reading. I'm like a damn scholar in that aspect. So I'm very well read, and I don't like talking out of my ass. I like doing things professionally, and I'm not going to do anything biased. No, because to me it's about the heart of truth, or the truth of the heart that matter here. That's what I care about getting out because that's what reality is. All this other stuff, get out of here. So now that's I just kind of wanted to highlight to Miyamoto Musashi. Like, you know what I mean? It's like you had so many historical figures that could have represented Japan epically if you would have worked with them and you wouldn't pull this garbage. Rather than forcing it in a black character like Yasuke, whose actual identity is unclear. Yeah, because you're trying to represent real history here. You know what I mean? You're playing games by doing this. It's just literally uncalled for. That's why I say that all this blackwashing stuff is literally using their culture in the wrong means when it could be done in a soulful manner and it could be godly, but instead you want to do this godless garbage because that's all this is, and disrespect. It says a lot. Making Yusuke, who may or may have not been a samurai, seem like the representative of samurai and the entire culture and face of the Japanese history. That's literally an insult to the Japanese male because you're telling them, I'm not going to use you at all to represent your entire history. I'm going to use someone who's not even a part of that culture whatsoever and does not represent, Japanese history and or the Japanese spirit of a samurai, like in any means necessary, because there's not a whole bloodline of that. You know what I mean? It didn't contribute to the samurai world. Like, if you guys cannot understand that concept and you still want to push that ideology, you are brain dead to me. I'm very serious about this. So I think it's only natural that people will point out that it is a cultural appropriation. It's a DEI woke agenda. And that some Japanese and overseas people who will feel uncomfortable or dissatisfied. I am incredibly dissatisfied because I wanted a goddamn ninja game. I didn't even want a samurai in here. I wanted this to be ninjutsu because when I think about Assassin's Creed, think about this. How do you assassinate somebody? They can't see you. Assassin's Creed Shadows. I think about the shadow art and I think about the assassin art. That goes to the ninja. That's not samurai. Hell, even a kung fu artist will fit more. Uh, and to that, I would, you know what I mean, or another Asian. Like I don't understand how a samurai is fitting into an assassin and into the shadow art. You know what I mean? Not to say that that's not possible because you could stab them through those little houses with the slider doors. I forgot the name. My bad, y'all. But you get what I'm talking about. Yeah, because that's in Ghost of Tsushima. But yeah, just think about that. Assassin, shadow, and the art of that. That's all ninja. Silent and deadly. You know what I mean? That way it fits that. But like I said, who went to war? The male. So, hey, man, you just doing a Japanese male wrong. So, and some Japanese overseas will feel uncomfortable. I think that it would have been better to have a Japanese samurai among the main character. And Yusuke could have been a side character. He could have had an interesting story. And then, not only that, there could have been like some little side storyline with him. And that even you could have had a DLC showing how he even came to Japan, built up some type of background, and had something deep to it. You just had him appearing, disrespecting, like you did everything in the wrong manner, and it was done on purpose. It's not like it was an accident. You know what I'm saying? So that's just something to think about. Not only games, but also novels, movies, and dramas sometimes use stories and characters that contradict historical facts. You also provide commentary on historical dramas on your YouTube show. What do you think about the nature of fiction? I think it is a matter of degree. For example, there is a strange theory that Minamoto no Yoshitsune did not die in Hiraizumi, but traveled to the continent and became Genghis Khan. Oh, this is kind of like Shogun. This theory was mainly popular before the war. If you haven't seen Shogun on Netflix, it's actually good. It shows respect to Japanese culture, but was dismissed by historians at the time as impossible. If a game in which Yoshitsune became Genghis Khan and fights were released to the world, I think it would still be a problem. Yeah. Even if it was labeled, this is fiction. Since Yoshitsune is Mongolia's greatest hero, they're talking about, like, speaking of like Genghis Khan and stuff like that. I think Mongolians in particular would be angered. They would. Of course, fictional works based on history cannot be made to be entirely accurate to historical fact. But especially when released to the world, I think care should be taken to avoid hurting the pride of people from other countries, as this could become a diplomatic issue. Hmm. Shogun is a success story. See, I figured they would go to Shogun. And by the way, y'all, if uh, uh, the, uh, the the interesting thing about this is that we knew that there were so many different ways that Ubisoft could have approached this and made this so much better. And they give so many examples. But the idea that they didn't shows you how the DEI, woke and democratic leftist ideology actually works. It has no interest of wanting to listen to anyone. Only thing it wants to do is push its agenda and destroy in the process until it only sees that be manifested everywhere. This is the problem with a democratic mentality right now and a leftist mentality and the woke DEI agenda. This is exactly what it is. It is a complete destructive process. It just wants to tear down everything, crash everything, and ruin everything. And you got a lot of people that don't see that demon and that monster or that Oni behind the mask of that, and they believe everything that it says, and they fall for it and they support it, and they get mad at people because they're so these people that are doing that are so good at brainwashing those type of people that they would see the people that are against that as bigot or racist or somebody that is a fascist, or you could just start to see like the similar pattern of behavior that they kind of try to push here. And like I said, it's very childish because they won't listen to reason or anything. That's why they were calling Japan racist. You see, because I'm trying to explain to y'all that that's how this mindset works over here in Western society. And you got those monsters, or which I would call onis, that are pushing this behind these people and victimizing them and brainwashing them. And then there's people that really do want that to be pushed because they're brainwashed by history or they lie and fabricate a lot of things. And it's just more racism on top of more racism. Instead of you trying to make society better, you're being more dumb by thinking that you want the same thing to happen to certain people that happen to you. That's not making anything better. That's actually worse because you're not trying to rise above it. That's not what the creator would want. He would actually be disappointed. But we go right here. As a contrasting example, I would like to cite the American drama Shogun, which was remade starring Hiroyuki Sanada. The lead character's name has been changed, but the motto is Tokugawa Ieyasu. The event leading up to the Battle of Sekigahara has been significantly altered, and the historical accuracy of buildings and the other things is a bit questionable. But when I watched it, I felt an understanding and respect for Japanese history. See, they're saying at least you kind of worked with Japan and you did what you could, but I didn't feel like you were disrespecting me. You know what I mean? So I don't have a problem with that. That's okay. An English modeled on William Adams, who, by the way, if y'all don't know about William Adams, he's actually was a real samurai that went to Japan, worked with them, helped build ships. Um, oh, they went right to him. This guy right here, William Adams, better known in Japan as Miura Anijen, was an English navigator who in the 1600s became the first Englishman to reach Japan. He actually became a real samurai, and he did a lot of good things. So if you don't know about him, this guy was actually respectable towards Japan, real historical figure. And like I said, he worked with them a lot. he was even noble and confused, and he listened, and became over time to understand the Japanese spirit. He was a real guy, this individual right here, or your madams. And so that's what they were talking about, is washed ashore in Japan and teaches the protagonist how to navigate a ship and use cannons. If there was If this was all there was to it, it would seem like a civilized white man is teaching a foolish person of color, but that's not the case. No. This Englishman is confused and resistant at first, but gradually becomes impressed by the proud way of life of the Japanese samurai, and the story depicts a process in which he comes to understand and respect them. It is not a one sided relationship, but a story of mutual understanding. At its heart is respect for the culture of another country. I think that this is important in fiction based on history. If you're going to depict the history and culture of another country, I don't think problems like this would have arisen. And there y'all have it. So down here, it just shows like he was born in Tokyo in 1980. He graduated from the Faculty of Letters of the University of Tokyo. He completed doctoral studies at the Graduate School of Humanities and Sociology at the same university and worked as a researcher there. He's currently an assistant professor at the International Research Center for Japanese Studies. He holds a PhD in literature. He specializes in medieval Japanese history. His books include The History of War and the Japanese Middle Ages, winner of the Shincho Sensho and Kadokawa Foundation Academic Prize, The History of Intrigue in the Japanese Middle Ages, Kadokawa Shinsho, Warlords, Illusion and Reality, Kadokawa Shinsho, and What is a Samurai, Shinsho. His book, The Onin War, Chuko Shinsho, became a bestseller, selling over 480,000 copies. He currently hosts a YouTube show called The Haruki and the Korisa with Akiko Haruki, a curator at the Edo Tokyo Museum. See, because Edo became that later on. They used to be the original name of it. So there y'all have it. Once again, if y'all didn't see that, this is the individual right here who's explaining things, and he's just being humble about it. And there y'all have it. You see, so he was just used as a spectacle, an entertainer, and he's able to have the formation like all those other sumo wrestlers who were not real samurai. So you have to understand what that really means instead of thinking that he's some badass guy that comes in some armor and slices down people and all that. That's not what that is. You know what I mean? They're not actually real fighters like that. But it was more like a spectacle and it was entertaining and it was just something cool. Like, but you're just having a cool time. So what? You know what I mean? There's nothing wrong with that. But making it to be something that it's not is disrespectful and lying and portraying a false image of somebody. And that's not godly. All right, y'all. Glad to cover this. Like, subscribe if you like this type of content. And my comments are open if y'all want to say anything in Western society. And also in Japan, yeah, let me know what y'all think. If I missed some things, let me know. I'm open to hear as always. I love talking with y'all last month, and I will continue to. All right, y'all. Peace and love.